Brazen Prince Andrew's new plan revealed after King Charles axes £1 million allowance. The Duke of York has reportedly found a new way to fund life at Royal Lodge after the King has axed his security team and allowances. Prince Andrew reportedly has a new plan up his sleeve to ensure he can stay in his Windsor home, despite efforts by King Charles to try and encourage him to downsize. The Duke, 64, has been encouraged to leave Royal Lodge over the last few months and downsize to a smaller royal residence such as Frogmore Cottage. Despite efforts by the King, 75, to prompt him to leave the 30-bed mansion, including by axing Andrew's £1 million allowance and his security team, the disgraced Duke does not appear to be budging anytime soon. According to an updated version of the book Charles III, New King, New Court. The Inside Story, which is being serialised in the Daily Mail, author Robert Hardman said that Andrew has brazenly found other sources of income to fund life in Royal Lodge and the improvements that are needed to it. Hello viewers, please remember to subscribe and click on the notifications bell icon, so you will be notified whenever we upload new cookies about the British royal family. This includes sorting out the mold issue within the home, with part of the lease agreement being that the residence will be kept in good condition throughout. A source told the author, he claims to have found other sources of income related to his contacts in international trade, sufficient to cover all his costs, which would be a welcome outcome for all parties if that turns out to be the case. But as to whether this funding can be relied upon in the long term is another matter. Prince Andrew has lived at the £30 million home since 2004 and now shares it with his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson. He signed a 75-year lease on the property in 2003, in the hopes that it will eventually be inherited by his two daughters Princess Eugenie, 34, and Princess Beatrice, 36. According to a royal expert, it is also believed that Andrew does not want to leave the home as then he will feel as though he has lost everything. Expert Rupert Bell told Times Radio, one of the problems that Prince Andrew has is that he is occasionally convinced of his rightness, and he gets himself into hot water with his stubbornness, and sometimes his own arrogance has caused him to create these problems. He feels like he lost everything, and if he loses his house, well then he probably feels that even more has been taken away from him. It's an interesting dynamic between these two, but King is trying in a way to force his hand, but if Andrew says I can afford to live here, then there's not much the King can do. Prince Andrew's royal return, halted before it gets off the ground as he'd fail vetting process. Prince Andrew was linked with a shock royal return this week as it was pointed out he could be the perfect person to act as a helicopter pilot for his brother, King Charles. The Scottish Express told how the monarch was on the lookout for an experienced flyer to join his chopper team known as the King's Helicopter Flight, TKHF. The Duke of York flew helicopters with distinction during the Falklands War and is said to retain a fascination with flying, spending hours at his Royal Lodge home tracking the takeoff and arrival of planes. Based at Odiham in Hampshire, the job carries a competitive salary with benefits handy for Andrew, who has become strapped for cash in recent years as he tries to pay for the upkeep of his home. But it has now been pointed out Andrew would likely fail the vetting procedure if he did shock everyone by handing in his CV. According to the Daily Mail, the Palace HR team states, "We will contact your professional, and sometimes personal, referees. We'll also undertake background checks in order to process your security clearance." And that would spell bad news for the disgraced Duke, whose links to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein are well known. While an FBI probe into his friendship Epstein was paused, it continues to cast a pall over Andrew's head. The TKHF consists of a small team of pilots and ground support staff who provide an exceptional helicopter travel service to members of the royal family undertaking official engagements across the UK, according to the job advertisement on the royal family website. The King is looking for an experienced multi-engine helicopter commander who will act as either pilot in command or co-pilot. The successful applicant will be responsible for the planning and safe execution of flights and duties in accordance with TKHF Operations Manual. As well as flying duties, the job involves offering support to the Director of Flight Operations with a range of management and operational activities. The successful applicant would be required to live within an hour of RAF Odium, not an issue for Andrew, whose Royal Lodge home is just 45 minutes away. The Duke is far from the only royal with experience of handling a helicopter. Prince William was a search and rescue pilot at RAF Valley in Wales and later an air ambulance pilot for the East Anglian Air Ambulance, while his brother Prince Harry flew Apaches with the Army Air Corps. The King himself qualified as a pilot in 1974, following in the footsteps of his father Prince Philip. Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson's very unusual living arrangement despite divorce. Sarah Ferguson, despite finalizing her divorce from Prince Andrew 28 years ago, still shares a residence and a close bond with him. The Duchess of York, who marks her 65th birthday today, has two daughters with the Duke, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Despite Andrew's current wrangles with King Charles regarding where he should live, following difficulties maintaining the vast 30-bedroom Royal Lodge, both he and the Duchess continue to call it home. Fergie, affectionately known by this moniker among her pals, has been acquainted with Andrew since their youth, leading to their marriage in 1986. Their separation occurred in 1991, and they divorced 5 years later in 1996, reports The Express. In spite of their breakup, Ferguson remained supportive of Andrew throughout the subsequent Jeffrey Epstein controversy, which culminated in his withdrawal from public royal roles in 2019. In a heartfelt interview with US TV personality Ernie Manaus back in 2010, Sarah disclosed, "My deal was that I was marrying my man, who happened to be a prince and a naval officer. But what I got was not the man, I got the palace and didn't get him. And the courtiers told me I had to go to Buckingham Palace, and he had to go to sea. For our marriage, I saw him 40 days a year." Starting their married life at Sunninghill Park in Ascot, Andrew and Fergie relocated to Royal Lodge in 2004. In an interview with the Sunday Times during 2021, the Duchess expressed that she views Royal Lodge as her principal UK dwelling, whenever she is in Britain. She expressed, "I travel a lot and I've always been able to make wherever I am home. If I am staying in a hotel, I have the same family photographs and scented candles around me. When I'm in the UK, I'm lucky enough to stay at Royal Lodge. I wouldn't call it my home, as that would be presumptuous." 3 years prior, in 2018, she detailed to the Daily Mail how despite having separate rooms on different sides of the mansion, they always enjoy afternoon tea together. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and drop comments, and most importantly don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything.